The first winds hit just after dawn, rattling the straw rooftops and tossing dust across the village paths. I gripped my spear, staring at the dark clouds rolling across the horizon, wondering how anyone could survive this ferocity. The alien. Princess appeared beside me, her iridescent hair whipping in the gusts, eyes bright with determination. "We need to move the livestock and the villagers to higher ground," she shouted, her voice cutting through the roaring wind. I nodded, realizing that her calm in the face of chaos was more than reassuring. It was inspiring. The storm was merciless, but so was her will. Lightning struck a distant baobab, illuminating the fields and revealing a herd of panicked animals running toward the river. I sprinted after them, mud sucking at my boots, while she flew ahead on a levitating platform, her robes glowing faintly against the stormy gray sky. The creatures scattered at every gust, but her commands, precise and rhythmic, corralled them with uncanny effectiveness. I realized that this princess wasn't just a figurehead. She was a leader, a protector, and someone who could bend chaos to her purpose. Even the most frightened animals seemed to respond to her presence. Rain lashed against my face, stinging like cold needles, but I pressed forward. The villagers shouted from their huts, scrambling to save tools, seeds, and homes. The princess guided them with authority, forming human and alien chains to carry supplies, building temporary shelters, and clearing paths through fallen trees. I marveled at her organization. Each action was swift, precise, and effective. The storm was relentless, but it became a rhythm, a test we could endure together. Her voice above the din was both command and comfort, and somehow I felt invincible by her side. A river overflowed its banks, cutting off one of the main routes to the village. I grabbed a makeshift raft while she hovered above, directing villagers to safer crossings. The water roared like a beast, dragging debris and muddy logs toward us. I fought the current, muscles straining, and caught sight of her guiding a frightened child across a narrow plank, eyes steady despite the chaos. She landed beside me, drenched but resolute, and together we pulled the raft through the turbulent waters. Every second in the storm reinforced that her courage was the anchor keeping the village alive. Thunder rolled across the plains as the first night fell, rain turning the village paths into rivers of mud. We set up temporary shelters for those stranded outside, using salvaged wood, vines, and alien energy shields she conjured with ease. I tried to help, but she moved faster, multitasking effortlessly, directing villagers, calming children, and securing animals. I watched, exhausted, realizing that mere strength alone could never match her precision, her foresight, and the unshakable confidence she inspired. The storm had shattered the village, but she was already building a sanctuary in its place. Lightning illuminated distant herds of wild animals, restless from the storm. I tried to gather them with ropes, while she levitated between groups, her hands glowing faintly as she guided them to safer pastures. Every movement was deliberate, almost artistic. Even in this desperate chaos, I stumbled over a mudslide, crashing into a group of sheep, and she swooped down, laughing softly at my clumsy heroics, while still corralling the creatures perfectly. Somehow, amidst the storm, her humor and precision made everything feel manageable, even hopeful. By dawn, we had erected the beginnings of a sanctuary on a small plateau above the flooded village. Villagers huddled under makeshift shelters, sharing warmth, food, and stories of survival. She moved among them, checking injuries, calming nerves, and instilling confidence. I assisted where I could, but she was always 3 steps ahead, her, mind mapping every risk, every possibility. Even the animals, now settled in their temporary pens, seemed to respond to her authority, calm under her watchful eyes. The storm outside raged, but within our sanctuary, a fragile order took hold. A tree crashed near the edge of our plateau, shaking the ground beneath us. I froze, fearing further disaster, but she remained composed, assessing the situation with eyes sharp as flint, With a swift motion, she redirected villagers to safer spots, using her energy shield to protect us all from flying debris. I realized then that she was not just brave, she was preternaturally capable, someone whose courage and resourcefulness could transform devastation into hope. My admiration for her grew with each passing moment of the storm's fury. The rain eased slightly, leaving a mist that hovered over the flooded plains. We worked tirelessly, reinforcing shelters, securing food, and calming the remaining frightened villagers. I marveled at her ability to inspire obedience without fear, to lead with authority without alienation. Her presence turned chaos into coordinated effort, desperation into resilience. I felt a growing bond, a sense that no storm, literal or metaphorical, could break us while she was at the helm. The sanctuary was forming not just of wood and stone, but of trust, courage, and unwavering resolve. As the sun rose, casting golden rays across the rain-slicked plains, the full scale of the storm's destruction became visible. Homes were ruined, crops lost, and the village paths were rivers. Yet the sanctuary we built, guided by her determination, stood firm. Villagers, exhausted but safe, looked to her with gratitude, awe, and newfound hope. I stood beside her, drenched, muddy, and amazed, realizing that in the eye of chaos, she was the calm, the plan, and the heart of this reborn village. The storm had shattered the old world, but her resolve had forged a new one. She climbed to the top of a fallen baobab tree, scanning the horizon for incoming threats. I struggled to follow, mud caking my boots, but her silhouette against the storm-lit sky was magnetic. "There's more danger approaching," she shouted over the wind. I squinted and saw distant clouds of dust, predators or raiders, it was hard to tell. Her calm assessment made me feel grounded, even as adrenaline surged through my veins. Somehow, in the chaos, her presence was a beacon of strategy and hope. We prepared the villagers, forming human and alien chains to secure livestock and essential supplies. She moved like a conductor, orchestrating efforts with gestures and commands that left no room for panic. I tried to imitate her precision but ended up tripping over a waterlogged crate. She laughed, a sound of warmth and reassurance, and quickly corrected my errors. Even the children mimicked her movements, learning from her grace and authority. The storm may have shattered the village, but she was building courage in every soul present. Lightning illuminated a herd of wild animals stampeding toward the sanctuary. I grabbed a rope, attempting to redirect them, but the sheer force of panic sent me sprawling. She swooped down from her levitating platform, hands glowing faintly, guiding the creatures with subtle waves of energy. Their chaos transformed into coordinated movement under her guidance. I realized that she was more than a protector. She was a force of nature, channeling both intellect and empathy to bring order. The sanctuary was growing not just in structure, but in spirit. The villagers followed her to higher ground as more trees fell and mudslides threatened pathways. I helped carry supplies, slipping repeatedly, while she orchestrated rescue efforts with unwavering calm. Each command she gave turned panic into purpose, fear into action. Even as the storm intensified, her focus never wavered. She built trust not through orders alone, but through visible courage, empathy, and an uncanny understanding of both humans and creatures alike. I felt proud to fight alongside her, knowing her resolve elevated everyone. By nightfall, the storm had calmed enough for us to assess the sanctuary's progress. Tents were secured, livestock pens reinforced, and villagers organized into groups for safety and support. I collapsed in exhaustion, mud streaked across my face. But she moved tirelessly, checking every detail with precise efficiency. "Rest if you must, but don't lose focus," she said with a faint smile. I realized that her dedication was contagious. Fatigue, fear, and chaos melted away in her presence. The sanctuary wasn't just a safe place, it was a living testament to her leadership and unwavering determination. The rising sun revealed new threats. A neighboring clan, seeing the chaos, approached with weapons drawn. She met them without hesitation, radiating authority and calm, and negotiated terms that would prevent unnecessary bloodshed. I watched, stunned by her ability to combine diplomacy with strength. Even the skeptical villagers were swayed, respecting her not as an alien outsider, but as a protector and leader. I realized that her courage wasn't just physical, it reshaped perceptions, inspired respect, and forged alliances. The sanctuary was more than walls and shelter. It was unity in action. I worked alongside her, reinforcing barricades and helping villagers prepare for potential conflicts. She moved gracefully, demonstrating techniques, guiding us through tasks that seemed impossible in the aftermath of the storm. Every action she took was deliberate, filled with authority, empathy, and foresight. The villagers began to mirror her discipline and calm, even amidst fatigue and lingering fear. Her resolve became the foundation of their courage. I felt privileged to witness how her presence transformed despair into strength, helplessness into purpose. A sudden roar echoed across the savannah, a pack of predators testing our defenses. I froze, but she was already in motion, levitating between us and the approaching beasts, hands glowing, energy radiating in waves that corralled the attackers. The predators hesitated, then retreated, leaving the sanctuary unscathed. I could barely comprehend the power and control she exhibited, balancing intimidation with mercy. Her mastery over both humans and creatures was awe-inspiring, turning potential disaster into a display of order and protection. She organized patrols around the sanctuary's perimeter, ensuring vigilance without panic. I followed, amazed at how naturally she inspired cooperation, how even the timid villagers stepped forward to help. The sanctuary had evolved from a collection of tents and pens into a community of shared effort, courage, and trust. She taught by example, her bravery contagious, her insight shaping every decision. I realized then that surviving the storm had been only the first test. The real challenge was sustaining hope, security, and unity in its aftermath. As dusk fell, she gathered the villagers for a moment of reflection and gratitude. Children, adults, and elders alike looked to her with admiration, awe, and trust. I stood beside her feeling both exhausted and elated, knowing that her resolve had made this sanctuary a beacon of hope amidst devastation. The storm had shattered homes, but her guidance had built something far greater: safety, cohesion, and the unshakable belief that together we could face anything. The savannah might be wild and unpredictable, but with her, we were unstoppable. A week had passed since the storm, but the savannah remained unpredictable. The alien princess moved among the villagers, teaching them how to anticipate sudden floods and protect their livestock. I joined her, carrying supplies, noticing how effortlessly she balanced strategy with empathy. Every gesture she made inspired confidence. Her presence alone strengthened resolve. Even the animals seemed attuned to her calm authority, moving in harmony around the human caretakers. I realized that she didn't just lead, she elevated everyone she touched. A distant rumble signaled a new threat: roving bands of raiders exploiting the chaos. Villagers panicked, but she stood firm, issuing commands with clarity and precision. I followed her lead, organizing defensive positions and teaching basic tactics. Her mind worked faster than mine, anticipating enemy movements, plotting contingencies, and keeping morale high. The sanctuary had transformed from a temporary refuge into a fortified community, capable of facing both nature and human threats. Her leadership was the cornerstone of our survival. When the raiders arrived, she met them with an imposing presence, flanked by villagers and animals alike. I watched as she negotiated, blending diplomacy, intimidation, and strategic cunning. The raiders hesitated, unsure of whether to attack or flee. She maintained a steady gaze, radiating authority that inspired obedience without unnecessary violence. I could feel the tension in the air, the delicate balance between conflict and peace resting entirely on her insight. Slowly, the raiders withdrew, impressed by her mastery of both mind and morale. After the confrontation, she returned to overseeing the sanctuary, ensuring no villager or animal was left vulnerable. I helped reinforce barriers and distribute food, yet she always noticed overlooked details, correcting them with grace and authority. The villagers began to mirror her calm decisiveness, taking initiative where they had previously relied entirely on her. Every action she took reinforced the sanctuary's stability, her presence transforming it from a haven into a thriving hub of order and hope. I felt proud to be a part of this living testament to her courage. Evening came, and the savannah glowed, under a gentle sunset. She guided the villagers in a ritual of gratitude, honoring both their resilience and the bond they had formed. I stood beside her, feeling the weight of everything we had survived. The storms, floods, predators, and raiders. Her eyes met mine briefly, a quiet acknowledgement of shared struggle and triumph. The sanctuary wasn't just a place. It was a reflection of her spirit, her courage, and the unwavering determination that had united us all. The following day, scouts reported distant smoke on the horizon, wildfires advancing from the north. Villagers panicked, but she calmly directed evacuation and firefighting efforts. I marveled at how she managed simultaneous crises without faltering. Even amidst the chaos, her guidance turned fear into structured action, panic into purpose. The sanctuary held firm, a symbol of resilience, trust, and unity forged by her presence. She didn't just lead. She created strength where despair had once ruled. We worked tirelessly, diverting water, forming fire breaks, and rescuing trapped animals. I could see her energy glowing faintly, a subtle manifestation of her alien heritage, enhancing her effectiveness. Every decision she made was precise, measured, and humane, demonstrating a level of insight I had never witnessed. Villagers followed her example, their confidence growing alongside our progress. In moments like this, I realized that the storm had been merely the beginning. She was shaping a legacy that would endure far beyond any calamity. By nightfall, the fires were under control and the sanctuary stood resilient. I sat exhausted beside her, mud and ash streaked across our faces. She surveyed the land, her expression calm but vigilant. I could see pride mingled with relief in her eyes. Together, we had not only survived nature and human threats, but transformed despair into a thriving community. The sanctuary was more than a refuge. It was a living, breathing testament to courage, leadership, and the unbreakable bonds between humans, aliens, and the savannah itself. The villagers celebrated their survival with laughter, music, and shared meals. Children danced among the animals, mimicking the princess's gestures, while adults shared stories of the storm and its aftermath. She moved among them, offering guidance, encouragement, and gentle humor. I joined her, smiling at the scene, chaotic yet harmonious, wild yet controlled. The savannah, once a place of fear and destruction, now buzzed with life and unity. Her resolve had built not just a sanctuary, but a home. As the sun set on the transformed savannah, I stood beside her on a hill overlooking the village. The horizon glowed orange and gold, and the wind whispered through tall grasses. She looked at me, eyes reflecting both triumph and tenderness. "We've done more than survive," she said softly. "We've created something lasting." I nodded, feeling the truth of her words. The storms had shattered the old ways, but her courage, vision, and determination had forged a sanctuary stronger than any force we had faced. Together, we had triumphed.